Hey everyone, and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video, we will be talking about another election prediction, this time between businessman Perry Johnson and President Joe Biden. So, Perry Johnson is a candidate in the Republican nomination for president. Obviously, an underdog when we have people like Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, big names like those in the race already or likely to get in the race. So, Perry Johnson obviously has an uphill battle if you know anything about him, or you can even figure that if you don't know anything about him, because if you haven't heard of him, it's very unlikely that he will win the nomination. But he is in the race, and what really surprised me was he spoke at CPAC last week, and the CPAC straw poll, which you know is held every CPAC, very important, very publicized. Trump took a huge win, but Perry Johnson really surprised me with his performance because he polled at 5% among CPAC, among CPAC. Obviously, that's not enough to win. That is way more than I expected. And it was above Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley only pulled at 3%. And it was a quarter of what Ron DeSantis had. DeSantis had 20%. So Perry Johnson did way better than I thought. But if we're looking at a general election, probably won't do that well. Perry Johnson, all he talks about is the economy. He has this 2 cent plan, 2 cents to save America. He wrote a book about it. He hasn't said a word about social issues, and he will have a very, very, very hard time resonating at all with American voters. So I don't think that Perry Johnson would be that strong of a candidate, but let's go through this scenario. So, safe states for Joe Biden, there will be a lot of them: Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington. Illinois would be safe, even though it wasn't for the J.B. Pritzker or Tammy Duckworth in 2022. Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine's first would all be safe. D.C. would be safe. That will be it. For Perry Johnson. And by the way, safe states are states that will be decided by more than 15%. For Perry Johnson, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, North and South Dakota. Montana, he might just very narrowly pull out a safe margin win, but very close to being likely. Nebraska at large, Nebraska's first and Nebraska's third. Probably that. Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and that will be it. So I feel that most other Republican candidates would get a lot more safe states than Perry Johnson just did. But that puts Biden at 181 electoral votes, Perry Johnson at 86. Biden more than doubles Perry Johnson's electoral performance just among safe states. So as you can see, I really don't think that Perry Johnson would be that strong of a candidate. And looking at this map, I just realized that I forgot a safe state. That being the state of Colorado. It went safe for Michael Bennet in 2022, the senator. It went safe for Jared Polis, the governor, in 2022. So it is trending left, and especially with such a poor candidate like Perry Johnson, especially in a progressive state like Colorado, I don't think he would really relate with those candidates at all. I don't think he would have any amount of appeal in Colorado. I think that Biden would carry that, so that puts him at 181. Let's move on to likely states. These states will be decided by 5 to 15%. So let's get started with Joe Biden. Of course, there will be a few of them. New Mexico, I definitely think would be one. A state that is becoming more of a safe kind of territory for the Democratic Party, especially with Perry Johnson being a very poor candidate, especially in the Sun Belt. At least in the Rust Belt, he'll be a businessman. He will have some connection to these Rust Belt voters. He might have some sort of appeal to the white working class voters that Trump was able to win in 2016 and Biden flipped back in 2020. But especially, in this Sun Belt region, all these swing states, Perry Johnson's performance will be very, very poor. And that goes for Nevada, Arizona, this entire Sun Belt, not just for New Mexico. Virginia would be very close to being safe. I see this as a 13% margin or more for Joe Biden. Virginia, I don't think I need to talk about too much. It was likely in 2020, and Perry Johnson really is a worse candidate than Donald Trump. New Hampshire, Perry Johnson, I mean, he wouldn't be able to really run strong campaigns anywhere except the Rust Belt. And even his campaign in the Rust Belt wouldn't be that strong if we're really looking at it. But especially in a Democratic state like New Hampshire, Perry Johnson is not going to be able to flip these 7-point Biden states in 2020. Nor will he be able to flip the 1-point Biden states. He just will not be able to do that. Maine at large. Maine at large would be likely. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Maine at large was likely for Biden in 2020. That would stay. Minnesota definitely. Nebraska second definitely. Both went to Biden by 7 in 2020 again, and he's not really going to get that much closer in these 7-point Biden states, if he gets closer at all. These states would probably shift to the left, if anything. And I am tempted to make Michigan likely, but then again, he is from Michigan. He ran in the Michigan gubernatorial election in the Republican primary and was removed from the ballot for having, what do they call it? The signatures. The signatures were not real. He basically just cheated in the election. It was election fraud essentially. So I don't know how much that helps him. They probably have a sourness to his name in Michigan, especially since they know maybe the home state will actually hurt Perry Johnson more than it helps because they know him for election fraud. So that's why I'm going to put Michigan as likely D for Biden. Pennsylvania went to Biden by 3%, maybe 4% in 2020. This one is very tough. This could be likely, and I think that's where I will put it right now. Again, Perry Johnson will just not be able to resonate, especially with these rural voters in rural Pennsylvania. That came out for Trump, that weren't really politically involved all that much, but came out for Trump in 2016. I don't see him having any amount of energy that Trump had in 2016. None. And even in 2020, I think that he would outperform Trump in 2020, especially looking at the Democrats' performance in 2022 in Pennsylvania. If we're saying who's a better candidate, Perry Johnson or Dr. Oz, I would say Dr. Oz is a slightly better candidate, and Dr. Oz lost by 4.9. So I think that Biden does win Pennsylvania by a likely margin. But that one's tough. That could definitely be one that could go lean. Nevada, I don't think I can put likely, so let's skip that one. Alright, likely states for Perry Johnson. South Carolina, we don't have to talk about all that much. Indiana, Missouri, Kansas. 3 very Republican states, but Alaska too. But he won't quite be able to win them by good margins. He will just come up short a point or two from what Trump had in 2020, and these were all states that went to Trump by a safe margin, with the exception of South Carolina and maybe Alaska. But they were very close to being likely. So Perry Johnson underperforming Trump by a point or two really everywhere. I think that these states would be likely. A lot of these are tough. Iowa's likely, went to Trump by 8 in 2020. So this one could go either lean or likely. As I said, he will underperform Trump a point or two everywhere. But Iowa, I think he only underperforms him just a bit. I think that he would honestly be kind of a good candidate for Iowa. I feel that he would kind of do all right in Iowa. That would be one of his best states, but still probably underperform Trump. Ohio, I won't call yet, but that's going to be it for likely Republican states. So that puts Joe Biden at 260. He just needs 10 more for the win. He could win any remaining state besides Nevada, and he would win. Perry Johnson is at 131, so obviously Perry Johnson has a very uphill battle to win this scenario. So now let's get into lean states. These states will be decided by 1 to 5%. The first is Wisconsin, which would be like a 4-point win for Biden. As I said, Perry Johnson is not going to really do that well anywhere, especially in Wisconsin. It is the most Republican of the blue wall states, so that is why Michigan and Pennsylvania are likely, and Wisconsin is lean. There are a lot of white working class voters. Trump did best here in 2016 and 2020. So that is why it is a bit closer than the rest, but I still think he comes up short. I don't think that Perry Johnson has that type of appeal, and Joe Biden wins the election. Georgia is definitely a lean Democratic state. Perry Johnson, any appeal that Trump had among African Americans or any minorities in Georgia is long gone for Perry Johnson. He's just some old white dude. He's not winning anything. And Joe Biden, I feel, will once again be able to turn out those African American voters, at least enough. Turnout among the Republicans would be so low, especially young Republicans, maybe more on the moderate side. They would not be enthusiastic about Perry Johnson at all. He would have a very hard time winning a lot of groups of Republicans. Let's go to North Carolina. That flips lean Democrat for Biden. That is one that is a pickup for the Biden campaign. Basically everything I said for Georgia. Trump was able to win them. Obama won North Carolina, I think, twice, or at least in 2008, but I think he did in 2012 too. And Biden wasn't able to flip it back, but Donald Trump was still able to turn out those more rural voters more than, say, Mitt Romney was able to do. But he was even able to turn them out in 2020, and that saved him. Perry Johnson, again, will just not be able to connect with a lot of these voters that Trump was able to. He won't appeal to them, and it would cost him, especially in a state like North Carolina. Going down to, let's do Ohio. That's a lean Democratic state for Perry Johnson. This one would be like a 1 to 2 point win for Perry Johnson, honestly. Trump did make Ohio so much more partisan to the Republican Party. So I think that would allow him to hold on. But if we're talking 2016, Perry Johnson would have no shot in Ohio, because that was right after Obama left office. It wasn't as partisan towards the Republicans as it is today. So Ohio, I do think that Perry Johnson would be able to hang on. Texas, I do think that Perry Johnson would be able to win by 2 or 3 points. A couple points shifted to the left from 2020. Again, Trump was able to do very well among Latinos in 2020, especially in Florida and Texas. Texas would have been a lot closer. Joe Biden won a lot more of the white vote than Hillary Clinton was able to do, but a lot of Latinos switched to Donald Trump in Florida and Texas, and that is why it remained a likely margin win for Trump in Texas in 2024. Perry Johnson would not have that type of support among Latinos like Donald Trump was able to have, and we'll talk about that for Florida. Why not I just call Florida right now? I think that goes lean for Perry Johnson for the same reasons as Texas. He won't be able to turn out that Latino vote as Trump was able to do. Joe Biden wins Arizona and Nevada, both by lean margins. Perry Johnson just wouldn't be that great of a candidate in either of these states, like I said. Especially social issues. I feel I've noticed that a lot of these candidates in Arizona and Nevada talk more about social issues, especially in 2022, than they do fiscal issues. So Perry Johnson running his whole campaign about his 2-cent thing, or the 2% thing, I don't think that would be a very good campaign to run in these two states, and I would say Biden carries them both by lean margins. Then we're left with tilt states. There's just one. Maine's 2nd district. I think that Perry Johnson would win it by a tilt margin. Trump made it a lot more Republican, like Ohio, but he would not be a very good candidate. He would be like the worst ever candidate for Maine's 2nd. So I think that it would be less than 1%. So it's not a blowout, but it is a very good win for Joe Biden. I mean, he could do a lot better, don't get me wrong. But Joe Biden wins 319 electoral votes, Perry Johnson's 219. So Biden gets, 100 more electoral votes than Perry Johnson. It's not bad. The only state that flips is North Carolina, which flips to Biden. But no other state does. But Biden definitely has an opportunity against Perry Johnson to flip Maine second. Definitely Ohio is in play. Definitely Texas is in play. Florida, probably not so much. So, here it is. Here's the map. So thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That would be greatly appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.